Excellent.
There you go.
All right. Thank you so much. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for hopping on today, and we want to make the most of your time. And so, Corey Mahaffey, who's the economic developer in Hannibal, and we met Ned several years ago, and then we just reconnected with him recently in August when we were all at a mutual event, and he was just giving us an update on his company. I always feel like I pronounce it incorrectly, but GogyUp.
Oh, you're perfect, spot on. There's actually no way to pronounce it totally correctly, so great, thank you.
Okay, but one of the things that we were really impressed by was just the level that he's built his company, the ability to offer training and communication through his system. And so we thought this would be a great thing for all of our manufacturers in the area are having workforce issues. A lot of those are training issues, and some of those with some of our immigrant population are communication issues. And so we really thought that his products could be something that all of our manufacturers could take advantage of. And so that's why we invited Ned today to join us and give a presentation. And so Ned, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Excellent. Well, thank you for that great introduction. It is such a pleasure to reconnect with you guys, and hope we get to do that soon. I'm hoping that at the end of this meeting, I'll have lots of opportunities to come down to your area of the woods to meet with you guys. So again, my name is Ned, and the name of our company is purposefully vague. Some people say GogyUp, some people say GogyUp, some people say GooglyUp. All of those are really fine. It's a made-up word. But the reason why we have our name the way it is really reflects our mission, and that is when you look at our name, you might take a while, as Carolyn just demonstrated, even have a little bit of hesitation about how to say it, and that is really what we think we know. Employees who are especially with limited literacy or new to the English language experience thousands of times a day, especially in the workplace. They look at a word, they're not sure how to say it, they're not sure what it means. And that's really what we're all about. We're about bringing assistive reading technology, combining that with your current training materials, and removing those barriers to understanding. And so I know this is sold as a roundtable, this event, and I really do want it to be like a roundtable. Given the virtual nature of things, I do tend to ramble on, so please speak up, interrupt me with questions and things as I go. But what I would really like to do, sorry, I muted myself, really introduce you to what our company is about, why we're excited to meet with you today, demonstrate our technology, and then hopefully have a little conversation about it, and then see how many of you would be interested in inviting us into your companies for a free trial. That's part of a grant that we have through the USDA to test the feasibility of this working in the rural workplace. So this is just a little bit about who we are as a team. Again, my name is Ned. I have three other extremely talented co-founders, all of whom are the technical side of the business. I'm the one with the teaching background, the online education background, and I basically do everything else, especially talk to you. I'm the least introvert of our team, so I get to meet with people all the time. So what is GogyUp? GogyUp is, just really quickly here, essentially we take your common materials that you have right now and we convert them into interactive job aids, so that with our assistive reading technology, which is text-to-speech, an AI-based dictionary. This is actually vaporware right now. We're developing this, but we're getting closer. Instant translation for any word back into your employee's preferred language if they have language other than English, and then alternative formatting and no-fail comprehension activities, which we think is provides employers. That's the real win for using GogyUp for employers, aside from the fact that their employees are also winning by getting in-the-moment reading help for anything that gives them personalized help, but also gives them a safe space to ask these questions about, what does this word mean? I know it was covered in the training 2 weeks ago. I might be hesitant to bring it up right now. And this is just another illustration of that. What I'm going to do right now is just kind of switch screens and actually show the technology, because it's a lot better to show it than to talk about it. So just bear with me as I switch screens, and you will see how this works on the recording as well. Okay, so almost there. Great. All right, are you able to see my phone right now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Awesome, great, thank you so much. Yay, interaction. All right, fantastic. So what this is right now, so this is our GogyUp, what we're calling the GogyUp reader. And this is, we've taken a steel mills lockout tagout procedures. We've just, the only thing we've changed up here is actually the name of the company. We've made it, GogyUp. Oh dear, why is that doing that? Let's go back. I have to tap screen. So I will edit this part out of the recording. This is great. Why is it not sharing? Okay, time to go to plan B. Oh, this is happening. It did this during rehearsal. Bear with me for a moment while I grab a cable, plug into my phone. So far, I hope what I've stated makes sense, but basically, as I said before, we take your current materials, and I'm going to stop the share and try again. We don't take your materials and stop the share, but what we do is we take your materials and share it. Great. Okay, connected. Okay, lesson learned. Use the cable, not the AirPlay. Okay. So this is a different part of the screen. This is actually where you start off. So you go into the library, and then you tap on the number of different readings that you can have in here. Okay, so starting again, this is the actual manual taken from one of our partners. It's a steel mill. We've only changed the name. Everything else is exactly as is written. And you'll notice some blue words and things like that. And we'll get to that in a little bit if you're interested. But right now, what I want to get back to is a couple of the levels of reading assistance we bring. And so at the very first level is being able to touch a word and getting that, just hearing what that word is. Program, okay, program, and hear it spoken in the sentence. And what's really nice about this is that the employee can hear this entire sentence over and over and over and over. The phone will never get tired of serving this up. And just anecdotally, we've actually been working with one Latinx group up here in Twin Cities for over 3 years. And one of our longtime users from that group says, yes, I listen to this while I'm doing the dishes. I'm like, how are you listening to this while I'm doing the dishes? She goes up, she was studying for the GED, and so she listens to the content over and over again by using the hear sentence feature. So you can hear the word, hear a sentence. You can also get the translation, and then also translation back into your language or your preferred language. And here, in this case, we're showing Somali. The really important point I want to make here is that we don't translate a sentence. We don't translate the entire document. We only translate one word. And the reason why is because translation, as I'm sure you've run across, is extremely difficult to do accurately. And so what we want to make sure is that we get the word right. Because at the end of the day, we want the employee to be able to communicate in English back to the employer, because that's going to be the common language. So that's the capability that we have. So we have looking up dictionary, translate definition, looking up a one-word translation, and getting that English word spoken back. The next level of assistance that we have is around the actual formatting. So again, if you are a new reader, if you're an adult who's never mastered reading and have this new job and you want to do well, but need to know what lockout tagout is, which is an incredibly important knowledge base to have, this might be a little intimidating to you. This is a lot of text. It's got a lot of high-level words in it, even though it's written in a fairly straightforward manner. So what we do is we just use this feature we call easy text. And what that does is it takes every paragraph, breaks every paragraph into individual sentences, and then arranges the sentences by phrase, so that you can now you still can touch on any word. You hear that word, hear the sentence, get the dictionary, get the translation, but you now have it in a much more easy format to digest, especially on a small screen. And I don't think I've mentioned this, Corey, but I was with this group in Hazleton, Pennsylvania about earlier this week, and there are 5 gentlemen who were Dominican Republicans. They were a country of origin. Some of them have been here for a number of years. Some of them were just new. And they are all excited about this format because it just made things so much easier. I mean, instead of looking at this nasty long paragraph about electrocution, you can now just go slowly to kind of get the content. Okay, so that's really the benefit to the employee, and clearly to the employer, because the employee is getting, over time, absorbing these words, and they can access it depending on your policies, whenever they need it. One of the things that we are really excited about for the employer side is the actual, how do you know that your employee actually understands this important concept? You might be taking them and sitting them in a conference room at the beginning of maybe January or beginning of the month and kind of going over safety procedures and things like that. You might be reading, together, answering these questions, but how do you know that that information is routine, or how deeply do they know that? And we think that we've kind of found the answer here. So what we've done is we've just taken a standard question and taken the answer. The answer is right here in front of you, but you have to reconstruct it. So let's try that right now. So I'm going to start off with lotto. Okay, no. Okay, so I got here's a capital letter. I'm going to go when. Okay, when I, okay, cool. Keep, no. Okay, when I follow. You know what? I need to look at this over again. I'm going to go back up in here, spend a little bit of time with it. Okay, I'm going to go back down and try to answer it again. All right, so when I follow lotto, okay, great. I keep my coworkers, okay, safe from death. Oh, no, okay, no, serious, okay, serious death, no, serious injury or death. And then because I started off life as an elementary school teacher, period, to answer the question. Now, the reason why I showed you that is because really every time we're doing this, getting the green or getting the red tiles, we're tracking that. And before I move into why we're tracking that, are there any questions at this time? All right, I'm going to take silence as that you're thoroughly entranced by what I'm showing. And I'm going to move forward and show you why we track those red and green tiles. Okay, so again, this is the data that I mentioned before earlier last month when I was out in Pennsylvania. And this is where we were trialing this with one of their policies, employee policies. So kind of low risk. And the employees knew that, but still they were engaged. And what's nice, I don't know if you can see, I'm going to try to expand this just a little bit, see it a little bit better. But what we're tracking here is, what was the result? Did they answer this one question? Did they complete the answer? Yes, everybody completed the answer. Great. But the important thing is how. How well did they complete the answer? And you can see at this top person spent a total of 9 minutes on the content, as opposed to like 35 minutes for one person, 20 minutes for another, 27 and 37. So that might raise a flag. And then you move into, well, how much time did they spend on the prompt? How much time did they spend on getting the answer? And again, you can see that this person spent a little bit less time than, or actually a lot less time than most people, and got a lot of errors. So you can kind of guess that this person is maybe trying to game it, or maybe trying to just get the right answer. Maybe it's the English is not there yet. So they're just trying to answer and not sure. We don't have those answers yet for you, but this gives you a good indication of how well this person understood the content. And they, did eventually get it right. And we can actually look at their individual use. I'm going to bring it back out a little bit. So they tried this little deeper dive shows that they had three prompts, or 3 attempts on the prompt. And you can see how long they took on each attempt. And so they almost took about half a minute. So you know that they slowed down a little bit. And at the end of the time, the second prompt, they got 5 answers. And the third prompt, they pretty much got it correct with, maybe 1.5 wrong tiles. You can also see how well they did in terms of their peers, the number of errors they generated, again, the average time, peers to the peers. So, 3 attempts as opposed to 2.2 attempts means that, it's their overall performance was the same in terms of how many times, how difficult the question was. But the number of errors, you could say, you know what, we want to check this person out a little bit more to make sure they truly understand before they go out onto the floor. So that's like one level of depth that we provide to you about how well your employees understand. The other thing that we do is, and I think this is really revolutionary, I'm really excited about this, is like we're tracking all the words that they're touching for translation, for definition. And so this chart is a little bit off, but basically these should all be once. So at least these words were touched once. And you can see that some of the words that were used in the policy might be a little bit difficult because they got a higher level of frequency, especially FMLA. I mean, this policy is essentially about FMLA. So you might, as an employer, might want to kind of circle back and kind of think about, okay, how can we make this more in the common knowledge of what FMLA is, just even the term. And then, you can get into how well did they know the term because you can write additional comprehension questions around it. And then, finally, it gives you just over here, oops, sorry, you show that, all of your, how each employee did on the content in terms of how much time did they spend. It's really interesting to see, okay, so it's 1398 still had a number of errors. So this person really spent a lot of time on the reading, but still had a number of errors, but got the question in one attempt. So, maybe it was the answer was a little bit more difficult. So in one way, we're presenting you with more questions about your training, but I think at the end of the day, we're also providing you with a deeper understanding of how well your employees are understanding it, and maybe give you some pointers about how you can make your training even more effective. And I want to emphasize that really the only investment that you have in getting the system up and running is sending us your documents and then who you want in the system. And then we take it on from there. That's kind of the vision of our program. So any questions at this point?
So Ned, do you make any suggestions to businesses regarding their training materials when you put this into your platform, or just exclusively use a platform as described?
Right now, we're just focused on using the platform as described, but obviously, because you get this data in front of you, we have this data, and we can, well, first of all, as a teacher, if I see something that's really, out of the ordinary for the rest of the employees, I'm definitely going to, flag that and send it to you. And we want to build that into the system so you can see that, 1398 might be somebody, especially over several documents, they're still having the same issues, there might be some kind of intervention that can be developed around that. Or if it's 1398, who's, we actually don't share who's touching these words and what languages and things like that, because we want to kind of keep that dignity part of things separate, and know that employees are kind of going out on a limb using this and giving you all this data, and you're going out on a limb giving this to employees to use. And so we want to make sure that everybody feels comfortable using the app. But that said, what you can see right here is that if 1398 is having taking a long time on lots of the content, you can maybe go back, and we also provide the reading level for the content. You can go back and say, okay, are there words or sentences? Can we compress that? And we would certainly be willing to work with you to do that as well, because at the end of the day, we really want you to feel that your training is effective, and that your employees feel comfortable knowing that they understand how to do their jobs safely and efficiently. Did that answer your question, Bob?
It did, yeah, thank you. Follow-up question. This is really interesting data in terms of how you look at employee training, what they've learned, things like that. Are they informed ahead of time that this type of analysis is going to be done typically?
Yeah, because what we do is we're saying, you are giving your employer information about what you know, but actually, Bob, this is really interesting. I know that training varies widely across industries, especially because some companies have different resources than others. We're working with a very large food production company, and they use a learning management system to do a lot of their employee training. And so those employees are used to answering questions, because they know that it's essentially a test that their teacher, in the case the employer, is going to know how well they do. So in those instances, we don't do as much. In other instances, we'll come in and just say, like I did in this plant in Hazleton, it's like, okay, this is a way for your employer to know how well their training is doing, how well it's serving you. So when you're doing the training, you need, understand that when you're answering questions, obviously those questions are going to go back to your employer. But that's a great question, Bob. Thank you for bringing that up. And did I answer it?
Yep, thank you very much.
Great, cool. There are no other questions right now. And of course, that's essentially, the app itself, the concept really isn't that complex. It's really, we want to take your content and we want to add our assistive reading technology to it, so any employee can have the capacity to understand it. And then we also want to provide that data back to you, so you can have kind of continuous improvement in your training if you need to, or if your training is spot on and you're just having a few words here and there, or everybody's getting through. That's also vital information for you to know that you might not know through the usual large group setting training, or even if you're using learning management system and things like that. So I'm just going to flip back and welcome Alan. We're kind of coming back to the end of my spiel, but I'm certainly willing to stay and talk about what we do. So just how does GogyUp work again? We think it's simple to implement. We know you have no time. And often a lot of our customers, there's one guy or there's one woman there who's in charge of hiring, training, supervising. And we really want to figure out how we can be of best assistance to that. So, the only things you really need to do is just send us the documents and tell us who you want in the system. We make those documents instantly accessible. And then we provide that data back to you, so you have a deeper understanding of how well your employees understand your training. And we really would love to be down there, have an hour at your company with 5 employees or 20 employees, and really use your content and kind of see how your employees take to this. We're, as I mentioned at the outset, the USDA has given us a nice little grant to partner with Michigan State University to really have a study about how feasible this is, how well this might meet the needs of a variety of different employers. And so if you're so interested, I just happen to have the sign up link right here. And also, I'll drop this link into the chat, and this will be available for people. So it's just a simple little form, fill out. If you're interested in having us come to you for 1 hour. And then if you have further questions about it, you can certainly, here's my email address, my personal cell, call me at any point. And then also we have a link to our one pager that I've also thrown into the chat. So you can grab it there as well. So I've been rambling on for about 30 minutes. Are there any questions thus far that I can answer? Or maybe let's put the hard sell on. Would any of you be interested in inviting us into your companies to have your employees take a look and get you the feedback?
So Ned, I work with the SBDC, so I don't run a business that manufactures or anything, but
okay,
very interesting. I guess I'd ask two last questions if we have.
Sure. Yes, please. This is great.
First question is there some intrinsic assumption regarding the level of literacy that employees have to go through this, or not?
Yeah, there is. I mean, I think, why don't I bring up the app again, because that's probably the best way to talk about it. There is, we've been, before we started off, why we have the design that we have is because we've worked with, in South Minneapolis, we worked with a number of guys who are, literally getting out of incarceration, and they're trying to reintegrate with society, they're trying to reintegrate with the families, and getting employment was one of that. And part of that is you gotta have some kind of level of literacy. And then the other group we worked with as we were developing this were out of the International Institute of Minnesota here in St. Paul, which is our, the preeminent refugee resettlement agency. We worked with a number of new Americans who were, studying for the CNA Certified Nursing Assistants course that they have. In both instances, we really wanted, in both cases, both groups were like, they need to know the information first. They need to know that now, because that's kind of like what they need to move on. But they didn't have the underlying literacy skills. Some of them could read in their own preferred language. Some of them could read a little bit in English, but a lot of them were, kind of where 36 million adults are in the United States, which is below the 3rd grade level. I think if you have, I would like to think that this could work with everybody, but it might not. We do know through 3 years of working with this group Clues, the Latinx group here in Twin Cities, that they use it for their level 1 all the way to their level 4 ESL classes. And the data shows that everybody's using it. So even if that level 1 classes, they're still getting some value out of that because they're using it on a completely voluntary basis. They're not required to use it for the class, and they are, but they are still using it. So I think that might answer your question. One of the things we struggle with is working with groups that are in their home countries had limited opportunities for education, or are coming from a language that's completely unscripted. I believe Rohingya is like one of those, where there's no correlation between printed English and printed Rohingya. So that's something we're starting to kind of have to start to think about. But basically, to answer your question, because everybody can touch word by word, we know that they can get at least hear the English in their ear, and that gives them a leg up than not knowing anything. And even thinking it back to this graph, this gentleman here, that could be the case, right? That although he only used the, took one attempt to answer the question, he had 6 errors. And he did spend, I think, the longest amount of time in the reading. So that's kind of something we probably want to be able to kind of, that we would probably build in a notification for us at least, kind of look at what's going on with patterns of reading and then be able to advise you.
And that kind of leads into my last question, Ned, and I do see the app is available at the iTunes store, so kudos. You know, it looks like it's pretty easily accessible for those companies that go down this path and get their employees involved. Last question, do you know, are any of the businesses that you're working with correlating any of the results as you have up on the screen here with other performance, lost time accidents, things like that?
I would love that. We are just getting into working with companies. We spent, 3-4 years developing this. And the last thing I wanted to do was bring it to companies and say, hey, let's introduce something new that we don't have any idea how it works. So we didn't, so we're now at the point where we're going to companies. We have the data. We have 3 years of data from the app that I demonstrated. And then we actually have another consumer app, focus app, that we have 7,500 monthly users on. So we know the technology, and it's using the same technology. We know the technology is useful to people, to employees, to adults that are, bridging the inability to read technical English with having to know information in the moment. So we would love to be able to look at how does this help with retention, right? If you are looking at this and you know that 1394 is and I put 1394 just to anonymize. Normally we'd have the actual name of the person here, the employee. You know this person's a really good worker. You'll probably be willing to really work with them to make sure they understand the training, right? And so that might help with retention. What we think is we're giving you additional layer or flavor of information that can hopefully entice your employees to stay or make them increase loyalty. The fact that you are saying, hey, we want to make sure our training is working, speaks volumes about what you think about your employees. And safety reduction or safety risk reduction is absolutely another area we're really interested in. That's why we're working with the steel industry. In particular, we've had a lot of interest there just because safety is such a critical issue. And then, finally, just overall workplace communication barriers. Did everybody read the sexual harassment policy? Well, now you know, because it's in the app and you can see how much time everybody spent on it. Or did you look at over your health benefits? Do you understand your health benefits? I mean, there's lots of interesting little use cases we could use for this. And again, our hope is that it's not onerous to use. You just send us the documents, you tell us, who to connect them to, and we're off and running. And Bob will also mention that the app is free on the App Store, partly so that it's one conduit that employers can get to it, but we also make it available for free for anybody. I'm sorry, I don't want to imply that we're making this free for employers, but the other thing, we do make the app freely available so that anybody can download it. And the reason is, again, as I mentioned briefly, there's 36 million adults in the United States that are reading below 3rd grade level. The adult basic education system doesn't have the capacity to bring everybody up to speed. If everybody, I would love it if everybody could use our app to learn to read. I don't think we're there yet by any means, but the more people that use our app, the better our system gets, which then makes the employer's training better. And we see that virtuous cycle kind of continuing as more and more people use our technology. Our systems get better, and then the entire system gets better for everybody. Okay, so again, thank you so much for taking your afternoon, giving me 40 minutes of your time. You absolutely know how to get a hold of me.
Yeah.
And I look forward to talking with people in the near future.
Ned, thanks for taking your time today. We appreciate it. If you could send me the link
Mhm.
That would be great because Carolyn was correct. We had a number of other people that had RSVP'd from the area that were interested in learning more. So obviously we'd love to get that
Great.
information out to them to see if we can generate some more interest. And so if you'll send that to me, I'll make sure we get that out to the group. So
Excellent. I appreciate that. Yep. Just edit that little snafu with,
yeah,
with the video and then get that out to you guys.
yeah, thank you so much. And I appreciate your time and thank
Great.
everyone else for participating.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right.
Thanks,
Yep.
Bob.
Have a great day.
You too.